In what is quickly becoming one of Hearthstone's best yearly traditions, a new core set of cards has been announced. These cards will be available for free to all players, meaning what is included here will color a lot of what is being played and what people are able to build. Today, I am putting on my Wall Street Bets hat and saying what you should buy, sell, or hold based on this announcement. Buy Rogue, a class that was only really looking to keep Shadow Step, a card that has been super strong and probably should have gone away a long time ago, ends up winning big with this announcement as Rogue gets to keep Shadow Step alongside Preparation and some other toys. Rogue gets the incredibly frustrating Shadow Jeweler Hanar back, a card that is a bit worse without something like Pack Tactics being around, but still a massively powerful engine for value. Can you believe it used to have 5 health? Rogue also gets some secrets. Plagiarize is a little underwhelming, but Ambush is alright. Bamboozle is really the card that would have pushed stuff like Private Eye over the edge. Also, 2 classics, Fan of Knives and Elven Minstrel, were also buffed, which is nice. To make room for these cards, Rogue got some fat out like Assassin's Blade and Plague Scientist that never really fit into the deck. Hold Priest. Priest is getting a total rehaul, again, and I'm sure that this time, it's gonna work. It's a little tough to figure out how this stuff is gonna go. It gains a new keyword, overheal, that triggers when you heal a card past full health, that on one hand gives new life to old heal cards, and on the other hand kind of feels like a glamorized version of Inspire. It loses Radiant Elemental and the excellent Northshire Cleric, and received cards like Crimson Clergy and Mana Geode instead. Dark Bishop Benedictus also remains in Standard, with this giving more potential to aggressive priest strategies. All in all, this is a very volatile, unpredictable stock that I could see going either way. Sell. Hero powers that do 1 damage. A lot of cards have lacked relevance due to having 1/1 stat lines, making them easy prey for Mage, Rogue, Druid, Demon Hunter, and now Death Knight. In the core set, a lot of cards have been buffed with their reintroduction to Hearthstone, such as Babbling Book, Swashbuckler, Psychic Conjurer, Jeweled Macaw, and Grime Street Outfitter. Not only does this mean that these cards won't be as vulnerable to hero powers, but it shows a change in design philosophy that makes it seem like we won't be getting as many 1/1s in the future. Sell. Old tech cards. With ETC now and tradable coming back, cards like Acidic Swamp Ooze and Ironbeak Owl get replaced really hard by Rustrot Viper and a slightly buffed Royal Librarian. Sure, these cards are 1 mana more, but cards like these are really feast or famine. Either they are completely useless, or you'd be willing to pay any amount of mana to get rid of a Flame Reaper or silence an Armegadillo. Armorgadillo. That guy. With tradable, you can pop these cards back into the deck, where you don't need them rather than having them clog up your hand like these tech cards from 2014. While tradable might put these old tech cards to pasture, Reddit is loving the keyword, as it has been asking for it to become evergreen ever since United in Stormwind. Which brings me to my next buy. Reddit. This expansion is getting uptoked to Karma Heaven, baby. Some Reddit favorites like Ziliax are coming back, and its voice line that gets brought up, constantly over there, as a nice neutral minion to stabilize against aggressive decks that is, for some reason, beloved despite being in like 50% of decks when it was legal. Defile is also frequently cited as one of the best design cards of all time for its skill testing effect that requires players to make interesting trades or choose not to summon low health minions for fear of giving the opponent a good Defile chain. I mean, in my opinion, it's a 2-mana board clear, which makes it absurdly undercosted, but what do I know? Google en passant. A kid named Finger. Mal'Ganis is another Warlock card that is returning, and if the first 8 or so years of I am a turtle jokes didn't crack you up, I'm sure the next year will convince you. Dirty Rat returns as Reddit's favorite incredibly strong disruption tool, while Eater of Secrets returns as Reddit's favorite wet noodle of a disruption tool. And for some r/eye bleach or some r/wholesome, or r/I can't take it anymore, what's even the point, we have the adorable Snow Flipper Penguin returning. But that leads me into my next point. Sell. Reddit. Murloc Tinyfin will not be returning, so not everything will be all hunky-dory for Reddit. Some hated Reddit cards are also coming back. The Redditors see these cards the same way they view someone who doesn't like Arrested Development. Kane's Sunfury returns as a way for Demon Hunter to push past taunts to close out games and give players flashbacks to the aggro and soul Demon Hunter days. Speaking of, Illidari Studies returns. While not as strong as it once was due to Skull of Gul'dan no longer being in Standard, its ability to put an Outcast card in the rightmost part of your hand is something the Outcast playstyle loves. Reddit also loses some of its favorites, like Lyra the Sunshard and Reno Jackson, but much like when True Detective Season 2 came out, they will find a way to get through this. Hold. Minions with Taunt. Really not too sure about this one. On the one hand, there are anti-taunt cards like Shard of the Naru and Black Knight joining the aforementioned Kayn Sunfury and Royal Librarian that will make keeping a reliable taunt up more difficult. However, there are also some great taunt cards coming back like Thing from Below for Totem Shaman strategies, Enhanced Dreadlord as a defensive tool for Warlocks, and Ziliax and Rotten Applebaum as great neutral defensive options. This is not to mention Frightened Flunky and Armagadillo returning to Warrior to help bolster a taunt package. Plus, the cream of the crop, Sword Eater returning is a great option for every single Warrior deck. I remember seeing this card non-stop from the point of its release in Darkmoon Faire to its rotation, and I'm not sure how I feel about playing against it again. Bye, old people. Probably two of Hearthstone's most iconic cards from its early days are back in Ragnaros and Dr. Boom. Nowadays, these cards won't be cutting any mustard in Standard, but it sure is fun to have them back, to remember a time when a 7-mana 7/7 and 2 boom bots was the best thing you could be doing on turn 7. Bye, Paladin. Paladin dumps its crummy secrets for some old school staples like Muster for Battle, and some modern classics like Hand of a Doll, which is still nerfed. As someone who played a lot of Paladin while this card was legal, this card was something you played in every single Paladin list. Also, you somehow always drew it on turn 2 after playing Aldor Attendant on turn 1. Grime Street Outfitter also returns with a whole new +1 health and +1 attack, making it a much more reasonable body that can trade into these new 2 health 1 drops and avoid being blasted by 1 damage hero powers. Two of Paladin's oldest cards also receive buffs in the form of True Silver Champion, now healing 3 health instead of 2, and Consecration going down from 4 to 3 mana. Consecration was always Paladin's only real way of dealing with the wide boards of opposing token decks, and seeing it go down to 3 mana feels really strong. Sell, Rastakhan's Rumble. Is this just an attempt to get more cheap shots at Rastakhan Rumble's expense? You betcha. Kragwa the Frog is leaving the core set. People wouldn't play it when it was given to them for free. Imagine how they felt when you had to unpack it. High Priestess Jeklik was buffed from 4 health to 5, and it is now getting the boot. Jeklik is certainly a fun card, but it is one that meshes so poorly with the aggressive strategies of discard Warlock decks. Bye, Scholomance Academy. Some cards I thought I would never have to see again are coming back to Standard. Are you ready to hear, "You here for the tour?" and "Muscle their magic" again? Well, Tour Guide and Cult Neophyte are back from Scholomance Academy after a gap year. While Tour Guide was the lowest ranked neutral 1 mana 1/1 from Scholomance Academy in my poll, it is sure to be the more powerful of the two here. Warlock loves this card to squeeze in extra hero powers while developing a small body, while Death Knight will appreciate more corpses. Cult Neophyte saw some play in aggressive decks and was a great response to all spell mage decks, but it wasn't as universal a spell disruption card as something like Lotheb. Bye, Hunter. Hunter loses Spring Paw, which is a bummer, but what it is getting in return is great. 3 key cards Hunter is getting are: 1. Cat Trick. Probably Hunter's best secret, it is a 2 mana minion with 4 attack and stealth that can activate secret synergies. 2. Dragonbane returns as a strong way for Hunter to control the board, a 4 mana must kill minion for the opponent, and a way to close out games with an extra 5 damage. 3. Doggy Biscuit is staying as a great buff card for Face Hunter that is also flexible in its tradable traits. Hunter's simple game plan of going face and ending the game as soon as possible has been consistent throughout most of Hearthstone. Definitely a blue chip stock. Sell, Fiery Wind Axe. At 2 mana, Fiery War Axe was one of the strongest cards in the game and even garnered the nickname of Fiery Wind Axe. It invalidated a lot of 3 health minions and eventually got nerfed to 3 mana. This was back in 2017. Nowadays, plenty of other, better, and cheaper weapons have been printed, but the axe stays at no effect and 3 mana. It felt like this core set was finally going to be the time they revert the nerf, but nope. Fiery War Axe stays at 3 mana and rotates out of Standard. Rest in peace. Sell, League of Explorers. Finally, those kooky adventurers are leaving Standard yet again. While people were excited to have them back, they have mostly, with one notable exception, been power crept out of the meta. Let me talk about these assets in ascending order of impact. Elise Starseeker. Yeah, this definitely has characteristics. This is a card that has below Yeti stats, yet doesn't really do anything the turn it's played. The map to the Golden Monkey is a 2 mana spell that shuffles the Golden Monkey into your deck and draws a card, which is ultimately just a 2 mana draw 1 because you don't actually want the Golden Monkey in your deck because the Golden Monkey is a 4 mana 6/6 taunt that replaces your hand and deck with random legendaries. So for doing a task that is honestly comparable to Seek Guidance, the Priest questline, instead of receiving something that wins you the game, You receive a minion that probably loses you the game, since all your good cards get replaced with, like, Sheldress Moontree, Sir Finley Myrtleton. There's a definite jump in quality from Elise to Sir Finley, as this is a card that provides a very solid body to the early game of Murloc Shaman, while also getting rid of Thrall's middling hero power. Honestly, it should probably be number 2, but I couldn't put it over Reno Jackson. One's a card that totally warped deck building for its incredible payoff, a 6-mana 4/6 that fully heals your hero if your deck contains no duplicates. It's just not what it used to be. People don't want this anymore. All the kids these days like is their construct quarters and their aggressive priest lists and their Marvel snaps. Bran Bronzebeard. Much like the jump from Elise to Sir Finley, there is a similar gap between Reno and Bran. While the other cards have gotten weaker as new cards replace them, Bran gets more powerful the more battle cries get printed. From its pairing with Astalor to its combos with School Teacher and any number of other great battle cries, Grace H. Parrot and Marrow Manipulator, the card is too flexible and has been the cause of too many headaches. Shorter, less in-depth video today. I was going to have another deeper video like the Caverns Below one today, but I go to college. Anyway, please subscribe to Chundo, like the Chundo, comment on the Chundo. Please follow the Chundo on TikTok at Chundo TikTok and on Twitter at Mr. Chundo. Thanks.